Okay, good morning. So I think yesterday you had taken down questions on WTO, right? India and WTO. So take down some questions on UN. Take down some questions on UN. So take down the question as discuss the structure, discuss the structure and functions. Discuss the structure and functions of the UN Security Council. Discuss the structure, discuss the structure and functions of UN Security Council. So this question was asked in 2023 for 10 marks. For 10 marks, 150 words. So clear cut, they have told means what you have to write on structure and functions, and you need to not just write what, you will have to discuss. And again, here you need to ensure that you write your answer within 150 words. Means you can't explain in detail, right? You have to be very brief in your writing. You have 7 minutes. So quickly form a framework and say that what you are going to write. Structure and functions of UN Security Council. Please remember, they are not asking General Assembly, they are asking Security Council. Last 6 minutes. Last 3 minutes. And the function. So what will you write as your introduction? What is the introduction you're going to write? Simple, you can keep. You can say UN Security Council is one of the six principal organ of United Nations. Or another introduction, you can say that UN Security Council is one of the principal body of major decision making within United Nations, something like that. Then you need to write the structure part. So what is the structure? Say it comprises of 15 members, where you can say 5 are permanent, 10 are non-permanent, elected on 2 years basis, on regional basis at large. And you can say permanent members have veto power in that regard. And then you need to write about its functions. What do you write about its functions? If you want points in a structured way, just take down functions of Security Council. Functions of Security Council, you take down. One, it sets. One, you take down maintenance of international peace and security. Maintenance of international peace and security. Second one is peacekeeping operations. Peacekeeping operations. Peacekeeping operation. Third, imposition of sanctions. Imposition of sanctions. Fourth, authorization of the use of force, use of force. Fifth, you can say conflict resolution and mediation. Conflict resolution and mediation. Sixth, you can say investigating and reporting. Investigation and reporting. Seventh, you can say they can refer legal disputes between states to ICJ. Legal disputes between states to ICJ. Okay, so these are the functions what it performs. In a 10 marker question, you can't bring analysis and all. Only towards the end, you can say that, however, there has been growing demand of reforming UNSC in terms of making it more inclusive in that regard, largely representing G4 countries into it. And largely, you can say with functioning also, they have to work on the increasing use of veto, and you can also say decision making should be more transparent and inclusive, something like that you can write in your answer. So largely you need to just write about its structure and functions. Why I'm saying is that of late they're asking bit factual questions only, like ICJ also they've asked that write about the structure and functions of ICJ. So what you do is that try to prepare structure and functions for certain important organizations. One you can be UN Security Council, another can be UN General Assembly. Prepare for International Court of Justice, ICJ. Then you have International Criminal Court. Try to prepare how ICC is structured and how does it functions in that regard. Also prepare regarding WTO, that what are the mechanisms, functioning mechanisms of WTO. Simple, use AI or any notes in that regard. Analysis you will be able to write once if you know, because you know the issues there. But you need to be good with the structuring part for all these bodies. But yeah, you can write this. I don't know, you can write even for 20 marker in point form if the question requires. So here and all, if you write in point format only, you can accommodate so many points. You try to write in paragraph format, but only ending one conclusion, write in paragraph saying that okay, however, Security Council should also change with time. It should accommodate the changing geopolitical realities or something like that. You could have written. Got it. So some factual questions are also asking. So look into International Criminal Court. So where does headquarters of International Criminal Court? Rome Statute. So it is Hague, but it is signed under Rome Statute. And International Criminal Court difference is that it deals with humanitarian crisis. What is that? War crimes, genocide, and what is the other thing? That's what. On what charges? War crimes, genocide, and there is one more thing. War against humanity or something like that. And here individuals can be trialed, and you can there is a structure also. I forgot it is there in my other class notes. 18 members are there, like judges are there, and you can say many countries like India, China, Russia, they're not signed the Rome Statute in that regard. They cannot take up cases which are prior to signing of the Rome Statute. And then you can say that certain issues can be also referred to International Criminal Court by the UN Security Council in that regard, and they cannot give death penalty to things. And ICC is not a parallel to domestic courts; it's a complementary to domestic courts. Okay, then you can link Valmidar Putin's issue, and largely the criticism has been that it is used as a tool of Western imperialism against Africa. Means most of the convicted members are African. So what you also do is that prepare one or two examples where International Criminal Court has prosecuted people. Then prepare one or two examples where International Criminal Court has failed to prosecute people, like Putin's case in that regard. General weaknesses you can write. Means major powers are not part of International Criminal Court. Second one, it lacks enforcement abilities in that regard. Common points. But prepare on the structure part. So one more question take on UN. Let us think that how will you write. Yeah, take note. What measures have been undertaken? What measures has been undertaken by United Nations for its reforms? what measures have been undertaken have been undertaken taken by UN for its reforms. 10 marks, 150 words, and you have 7 minutes to write. Please remember here, what is the question telling? They are not telling what reforms have to be taken. They are telling what reforms has been taken. So you need to list out. So this is not discussion based question. Question is also not discussed. Question is purely factual. What are the reforms? Think what are reforms have happened. Try to write. Time starts now. Last 4 minutes. Last 3 minutes. Last 2 minutes. Last 60 seconds. Last 10 seconds. Time over. So here the question is asking that what reforms, what measures have been undertaken by UN for its reforms. So what will be your introduction? What is the introduction? You can write something like UN, a body that was established in 1945, over the years has brought certain reforms to make sure that it remains relevant with changing times. And then just give a subheading say that reforms taken by UN till now. So if you want certain facts, I can give you out. You can take down. You can use it in other answers also. You take down. First, you can take down one as UN resolution. UN resolution. Resolution 1991A, which was brought in 1965. It increased the number of non-permanent members. Which increased the number of non-permanent members from 6 to 10. Non-members from 6 to 10. Then you can take down second reforms. The UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali introduced the agenda for peace. Introduced the agenda BOUTROS CHALI Boutros Ghali agenda for peace, that is post-conflict peace building. Agenda for peace, post-conflict peace building. It gained prominence. Third, you take down United Nations Security Council. United Nations Security Council adopted resolution number 1325. Resolution number 1325 in 2000. 1325 in 2000, recognizing crucial role of women in peace and security. Crucial role of women in peace and security. Fourth, you can take down in 2005. In 2005, UN Peace Building Commission was established. UN Peace Building Commission was established to coordinate resources to coordinate resources and best practices for peace building efforts. Fifth, you can take down in 2010, UN uh, General Assembly created UN Women for gender equality and empowerment of women. Gender equality and for empowerment of women. Can you take down? UN came out with 2030 agenda for sustainable development. You can write the sustainable development goals. 17 goals have been enlisted. Then you take down seventh one, UN 2.0 initiative. UN 2.0 initiative to modernize UN, UN for 21st century. In areas like data and digital capacities. Data and digital capacities. Eighth one, you can take down. Recently, UN has launched UN80 initiative. UN80 initiative launched by Antonio Guterres to strengthen UN efficiency, cost effectiveness, and its strategic alignment. Then you can also say that UNHRC means was established to promote human rights worldwide. Then you can take down UN Summit for Future. UN Summit for Future was proposed by Antonio Guterres. In 2021, where he presented the Common Agenda report. Common Agenda report. That is one, to bring greater say for developing countries. Greater say for developing countries in international financial institutions. Multilateral commitment to nuclear disarmament. Multilateral commitment to nuclear disarmament. Going beyond GDP. To measure human well-being. And Global Digital Compact. Global Digital Compact. And you can say to create meaningful opportunities for youth. Meaningful opportunities for youth. So this was the report what he brought called as the Common Agenda Report. It was introduced in 2021. So you're understanding. So what they're doing nowadays with these UN topics and all. Earlier they used to ask questions like analysis. Now they've gone bit factual. Means directly they're asking. You see, in last 4 to 5 years, they've told what are India's proposals in Glasgow Summit. Structure and functions of UN Security Council, structure and functions of International Court of Justice. What do you mean by this? Some jurisdiction in ICJ they've asked. Here they've asked what reforms they've brought. They're not asking what reforms should be brought. What reforms has been brought. So for here and all, you can't just work on analysis part. You need to prepare. You need to have content. So obviously you have to dig in and you can say, okay, I'm not telling it will come. So tomorrow, let us say they ask someone that UN's Common Agenda Report plays a very crucial role for the future of UN. At least if you know what is there in the Common Agenda Report, then you can stitch up an answer and write. Okay, you can write youth and all, you can add what can be done. But if you don't know when they presented the Common Agenda, who presented the Common Agenda Report, what is the goal of it? Okay, so in conclusion, what you can write that these are the reforms that have taken place, but still reforms are an ongoing process. Still there are need to bring reforms with its Security Council, needs to still implement many of the measures that has been taken more effectively. Something like that you could have written in your answer. Okay, so use this content especially in UN related reforms or etc. or what reforms have happened till now. Now, since we have also discussed UN 80 initiative, there can be a separate question on UN 80 initiative. What is it and what are the changes they want to bring it? So take down a separate heading as UN 80 initiative. UN 80 initiative. So take down, this was launched by UN Secretary General. This was launched by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Antonio Guterres to enhance the efficiency. And cost effectiveness. Efficiency and cost effectiveness within UN. Cost effectiveness within UN. It was launched on the 80th anniversary. It was launched on the 80th anniversary of United Nations. United Nations. United Nations. Second, its aims are one, to improve financial sustainability, to improve financial sustainability. Second, structural reforms. Structural reforms for better implementation. Structural reforms for better implementation. Third, strengthen strategic planning. Strengthen strategic planning. Strategic planning and cost effectiveness. Fourth one, restructuring program. Restructuring program to optimize financial and human resource. To optimize financial and human resource. Then to enhance collaboration, to enhance collaboration between different UN bodies, different UN bodies. Can you take down? To promote transparency, promote transparency in budgeting, promote transparency in budgeting. Then you take down. There is also an internal task force. Internal task force. Task force led by UN Under Secretary, UN Under Secretary General, UN Under Secretary General Guy Ryder, EUYRYDER, Guy Ryder. So these are what you can say is that the proposal what is there under UN 18 initiative introduced by this Guterres. Now here you take down, you also have to write in your answer if they ask for 15 marks, what challenges are there even though in achieving these goals. So you take down as challenges to implementing UN 80 initiative. Challenges. So one challenge you can say is the UN Security Council is a divided block, P3 versus P2. No longer it is P3 also. You can say America has only taken a different one, but P3 versus P2, that is Russia, China, and the Western powers. Then you take down. This is nothing but a mandate overload. Mandate overload. Overload. What is mandate overload? So many mandates they have brought, this reforms, that reforms. They keep on telling UN 80 initiative, peace for agenda. So there's a mix up of, there's no clarity regarding the just breaking mandate after mandate. So that's a mandate overload, but with little implementation. But it's a mandate overload with little implementation. Little implementation. You know, third challenge is that now to implement all this, you need funds, and at the time when America is actually cutting funds. So you can say third, the organization is grappling with immense financial strain. The organization is grappling with immense financial strain. Example, you can take down cutting down of funds by Trump to UN. Okay, so these are the challenges what you can write for this UN 80 initiative. For conclusion, what you can fix a conclusion if they ask question like on UN 80. So take down conclusion is that the UN 80's success, UN 80's success will not be measured, will not be measured. UN 80's success will not be measured by departments merged, or posts abolished, but by whether UN delivers more coherent support to those who serve it. More coherent support to those who serve it. this could be used as what you can say as one of your conclusion. Okay. If you want some introductions in UN related questions, you can use this as your introduction. You can say, it depends on, see, I'm not saying blindly you use it everywhere. You decide based on what is the question they're asking. But you have different templates. One, so especially in India and UN related questions or etc. You can write PM Modi. PM Modi at the UN summits for future. UN summit for future. For future said that the success of humanity, the success of humanity, success of humanity lies in our collective strength. Lies in our collective strength. Okay, so try to think when you can use this statement, but know it. Another you can write uh, Miles color. Miles color. Color means when you're writing out UN and etc., you have to write on multilateralism, right? So you need an introduction for multilateralism. You can Miles color defines multilateralism. He defines multilateralism as an international governance of many Okay, you one more definition if you want for multilateralism related question. Robert Keown. Termed multilateralism. Multilateralism as a practice of coordinating national policies of three or more states. So let us say there is any question where they have criticized UN or it is involving criticism of UN, but you need to end on a positive note. You can use the statement of Dag Hammarskjöld. The second UN Secretary General, who said that one must remember that UN was not created to take us to heaven, but to prevent us from going to hell. So this is something you can use it in UN related question. So what you are understanding, right? So now see, these are all fancy what you took down. Whether you can use them in exam depends on how much you have practiced. Okay, so why I made you write is that you can't remember all these unless you write it 3 or 4 times or you have used it in your answers what you have already practiced. Otherwise what will happen will be fancy thing, okay, in your book, but when it comes to answer you won't remember it. You can't recall only what Hammarskjöld told heaven or earth by the time will be over. So suppose you had already written 4-5 questions on UN, you had brainstormed it and told, okay, fine, this is my conclusion, this is my introduction, then you will be able to do well. Okay, otherwise you will struggle. But that's what I told you, it can be done if you revise multiple times. So what will happen? Your introduction conclusion already set. It's more about this example structure what you need to write. That you need to do it for every area, especially in these IR parts, you can have already pre-prepared introduction, pre-prepared conclusion, just fit into that template. But you need to also not just forget about scholars and all, you have to bring analysis also. But I'm telling these are just intro conclusions. One more thing that is also important for this year from UN point of view, which I feel that they might ask in the exam, because the current election is going on of UN Secretary General. So just take down the question as, discuss the role of UN Secretary General. Take down. Discuss the role of UN Secretary General. So in this you can take down simple, take down that the UN Secretary General is the administrative head of the Secretariat, is the administrative head of the Secretariat, and then you can take down UN Secretary General is elected by General Assembly and the Security Council, General Assembly and the Security Council, and then you can say by convention, he gets he can be the Secretary General for maximum 2 terms, maximum 2 terms, and he cannot be a citizen of the P5 countries. He cannot be a citizen of P5 countries. And just now note down what are the role he plays. The role of UN Secretary General. One you take down, he acts as a diplomat. He acts as a diplomat conducting discreet diplomacy, to prevent, mediate, resolve international disputes. Resolve international disputes. Then you take down, he largely focuses on achieving international peace and draw Security Council's attention. You can write the example. Recently, Antonio Guterres draw the attention of the Security Council over the Gaza, what you can say, genocide. Okay. Third, he is the head. Of the UN, or not the head. You take down. He is the chief administrative officer. Of the UN Secretariat. And he commands thousands of international staff. Handling the organization's legal and operational research. Then you take down the UN Secretary General. Also serves as the global spokesperson. For the interests of world people. Especially the vulnerable and the marginalized groups. Then you take down, he frequently consults world leaders world leaders on important global issues such as climate change, human rights, and sustainable development. Then you take down. He also chairs the United Nations Systems Chief Executive Board. He also chairs the United Nations Executive Board, Chief Executive Board for coordination and management of all UN funds, programs, and agencies. Management of all UN funds, programs, and agencies. Funds and agencies. So this is what you can write about. You can say the role of the UN Secretary General. Why it is in use? Because currently the election for the new Secretary General is happening in United Nations. Yeah, just look into the process. They will ask like role and how is he elected, they can ask. So here and all, there is no point in sitting and reading hefty notes. You have to just work in question and answer format. Means what questions can come, what questions have come, okay, what they might ask. Because if you know at least these things, right, what is one advantage you have? Let us think they tomorrow they ask about okay, UN should reform itself for 21st century. At least you know that agenda for future. What are the key aspects? AI, terrorism, climate change, etc. You can write something and come back. But let us say you don't know only what is there, then you won't be able to write or produce any answer. Okay. So write down one more question on UN to write now. Mm. Write on comment on India's contribution. Comment on India's contribution to the UN peacekeeping activities. Comment on India's contribution to UN peacekeeping activities. Comment on India's contribution to UN peacekeeping activities. 10 marks, 150 words. You have 7 minutes to write the answer. Okay. So just one suggestion what I can give you is that again it's a bit factual thing, but at least introduction you write. You can say that since its inception, India has strongly stood by liberal institutionalism and has contributed to strengthening of international organization with its philosophical belief of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam or something like that. You can write as an introduction. Rest is all facts. That what you can write. Your time starts now. You have 7 minutes to write the answer. Time up. So I think introduction you would have written what I had suggested, right? You can say that India's vision of peacekeeping is guided by its cultural roots based on its philosophy, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is world is one big family. So now to answer these kind of questions, you need a lot of facts, means what India has done, because they're asking outline what is India's contribution. So take down this thing as that soon after independence, India participated in the UN operations in Korea in 1953. India participated in the UN peace operations in Korea 1953. Then you can say India has sent over 2,90,000 peacekeepers. 2,90,000 peacekeepers. And India has participated in almost 50 missions. 50 missions worldwide. 50 missions worldwide. Then you take on around 180 Indian soldiers or Indian peacekeepers have sacrificed their life in peacekeeping operations. India is the fourth largest troop contributor. Then you take down in 2007. India deployed its first ever all-women police unit in Liberia. First all-women police unit in Liberia. Second on, even in 2025, there are 150 women peacekeepers. 150 women peacekeepers serving across 150 women peacekeepers serving across critical missions in Africa. Then you take down Major Radhika Sen. Radhika Sen was named the Military Gender Advocate of the year 2023. Was named as the Military Gender Advocate for the year 2023. Then you take on, till today, three Indians have been awarded the precious Dag Hammarskjöld Award. Okay, so then you can write in conclusion that what you can say, India's role in peacekeeping reflects its deep commitment to global peace, security, and multilateralism. That you can use it as what is it? Okay, what is it? India has also initiated of friends initiative. This is what? Atrocities against peacekeepers. You can add all this into your answer. Got it? So understanding in these kind of areas, be prepared beforehand. Means that's what I told here and all. Reverse engineering, just go with the question and answer format. or dig into other test series questions what they would have asked on UN. If you feel that okay, this question can come in the exam, just prepare content for it. And here and all structuring and all is easy. Why? Because there is nothing to structure about it. It is not philosophical. Straight away they're asking what is the uh, contribution to business. So have a good introduction, have a good conclusion, and fit into this what India has done. Got it? So largely these are the questions on UN. Take one more question on UN. Yeah, take one question on UN. This is easy. I think you can write, but let us see whether you will be able to write. Take down this question. Explain the factors. Explain the factors. Explain the factors which which justify India's claim. India's claim for a permanent membership. For a permanent membership. In UN Security Council. UN Security Council. This was asked in 2022. 2022. It is for 15 marks. Okay. So it's a straightforward question. It's again you can say it's not an argument oriented question. It's a dimension oriented question. They're asking to justify. Maybe only towards the end you can write out still what challenges are there. So your time starts now, and it is a 15 marker question. You get 12 minutes to write it. Last 8 minutes. Last 6 minutes. Last 4 minutes. Last 2 minutes. Last 60 seconds. Last 30 seconds. Last 10 seconds. Time up. So it's again a straightforward question because they're just asking you to explain what are the factors that justify India's claim for a permanent membership in UN Security Council. So you can start your answer by saying that Prime Minister Modi in UN General Assembly reflected the aspirations of growing aspirations of India when he said for how long a population of 1.3 billion can be made to wait at the gates of the UN Security Council. So that is what you can write. You can write that PM Modi said for how long 1.3 billion 1.3 billion people can be made to wait at the gates of the economic sector. So then you can say that India, along with G4 countries, has made a bid to become a permanent member in the UN Security Council, and India has what you can say put forward this demand based on the following uh, factors. Okay, deserving factors. One, you can speak about today India is the fourth largest economy, or you can say the third largest economy in terms of power purchasing parity, hence it deserves a seat at the high table. Second, you can say that India has also the fourth largest contributor to UN peacekeeping forces, and India has strongly abided by what? Strengthening liberal institutions. Third, you can also say that India is a responsible nuclear weapon state. That is also reflected in India's nuclear doctrine of no first use. And fourth, you can also say that India has also the necessary hard power in terms of India is the third largest or second largest army in the world in that regard. And fifth, you can also say that India has been a symbol and example for the world's democracy because India is the world's largest democracy, as well as you can say India is the most populated country in the world. Out of every 16 people, sorry, out of every 16 people, one person is an Indian in that regard. So India, going by numbers, deserve to be placed in what? UN Security Council. Sixth, you can also say that India has also contributed to Article 51, means settling international peace and security to mediation, etc. Seventh one, you can say India will also not represent itself, but also India will represent the entire population of the global south. So India has projected itself to be the voice of the global south, voice of the global south. Eighth, you can also say that India has showed to the world today, with its growing economic capacity and growing aspirations, it is also able to not only safeguard its own security, India has also emerged as the net security provider. So there you can write about India's Vaccine Maitri initiative, Mahasagar Doctrine. Ninth, you can also speak from the point of view that India is uniquely positioned with its policies of strategic autonomy, non-alignment movement, that they will bring balance into the Security Council, which is divided between P3 versus P2, and India can act as a bridge between the China and Russia and the Western countries on the other hand. So hence, India can act as a balancing factor within the UN Security Council. So then you can say that, however, though India's credentials are, high for membership, but you can say it should be also rooted in ground reality where it faces challenges. For example, China's position to India's membership, the uniting for consensus, their demands, what have been there. And you can also say, especially under American led by Trump, which is scant interest in reforming multilateralism. So you can say India will have to wait for a longer time to find itself in the Security Council. And then you can write, as Shashi Tharoor says in his book Pax Indica, that if UN does not accommodate in growing India's interest within Security Council, that it is not a loss for India, but it is loss for the United Nations. That you would have. So these are all easy questions, means these are all dimension oriented questions. You can write pretty easily. And if you see this question in different forms, they've repeated almost 7 to 6 times. 1 year they've asked about explain factors, another they've asked will India get or not, another they're asking what will happen if India become a permanent member in UN Security Council. So they just keep asking around on these areas. So if you have practiced some 3-4 questions on these areas and prepared some systematic content, I think you will be able to do it. So here, see, I'll tell you who will not score marks. Now somehow some person realism, liberalism, Marxism, some angle they'll bring and try to write. That is overacting again. I told, like you're trying to bring. You can write something called as liberal institutionalism. Done. You are trying to bring Robert Kuhn, Joseph Nye into your answer and trying to show, I know political science very well. No, that is not required here. In this question, plain and simple, they're asking explain the factors that led to what justification of India's membership. You just write what are the factors, geographical factors, economic factors. So many factors we discussed. Hmm. 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 Yeah, that you can. Oh, so understood for this question how you can how you could have answered. Okay, so yeah, these are the questions on India, UN reforms. So just summarize all what you have taken down, and again try to write few more questions once you go back home. Okay, now let's look into an area regarding nuclear proliferation and India's nuclear. Means we are combining both part A and part B here. So take down the question. No, I think we have already done nuclear proliferation. We have not done. Some questions we did. Okay, take down this question. Okay, let us think. This is a part, means 2A question. Let us think how you will answer this question. Okay. Discuss the evolution discuss the evolution. Discuss the evolution of non-proliferation of non-proliferation proliferation of nuclear weapons of nuclear weapons in the post-Cold War era. The post-Cold War era. 15 marks. 15 marks. And 2016 UPSC mains exam it was asked. So you have 12 minutes to think. Please focus on the keywords. One keyword is what? Discuss. You can discuss what? Other keyword is what? Evolution. The other keyword is what? Non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. Okay, it's not proliferation of nuclear weapons. Non means what do you need to write? You need to write the evolution of treaties. Evolution. You can't write like modern treaty now and then go back. Some people how they write the question will be evolution. They will return suddenly CTBT, then they'll go to PTBT. You can't write that. First will come like you can say this Nehru would have delivered a speech called as uh, peaceful means opposing nuclear weapons. I think he would have passed a resolution. Then you have to write about PTBT 1963. Then you have to write how it evolved into NPT. Then you have to write about issues of NPT. Then you have to write how it evolved into CTBT. Then you have to write issues related to CTBT. Then you have to write FMCT. Then you have to write about nuclear security summit that was conducted. So yeah, post-Cold War means 1990s later. So first give a brief background about. Then you write about CTBT, FMCT. Then you write about that why these agreements are not largely successful in that regard. But you can also bring an argument. Do find there are at regional levels there are nuclear-free zones that has been established. Then you can write about I think this 2018 or 17 they established this nuclear security summit in that regard. So what was the outcome of that particular summit? And then you have to speak about the present nuclear architecture. So that is the vague idea what you have. You have 12 minutes to formulate your answer. Your time starts now. Last 60 seconds. Last 20 seconds. Time up. So what you can write here? They're asking discuss the evolution of non-proliferation of nuclear weapons post Cold War. So obviously, in introduction, what you can write? You can write something like nuclear weapons remain as the biggest threat to existence of human civilization since the what is that project Manhattan, something like that you can write. Then you can say in Cold War largely they focused on the bringing non-proliferation of nuclear weapons through agreements such as NPT, PTBT. But largely you can say that was oriented towards the Cold War dynamics, that is between the two superpowers, etc. But then you can say post Cold War. Now they're asking what are the evolution. So one you can write post Cold War, they brought CTBT, that is Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. But you can say why CTBT failed or why did not come into operation only. Why? Because countries like India have objected to CTBT because they feel that still Western countries can continue with laboratory simulated tests. Then you can say that now nuclear proliferation started to become what you can say, the horizontal proliferation widened now because India did Operation Shakti in 1998. Pakistan within 12 days they also did their experiment, and then you can say that led to what bringing sanctions on these two countries. And then you can say they brought, I think in 2003, something called as PLI. You can take down. Is something called as PSI, Proliferation Security Initiative. Proliferation Security Initiative. This is the global efforts to prevent shipment of weapons of mass destruction and related materials. Weapons of mass destruction and related materials. But again, you can say that has been in place, but you can say it did not prevent North Korea from becoming a nuclear weapon state in 2006. Then you can also say that now there was also what you can say Iran's development of nuclear program. They went for JPCOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that is P5+1. But again, you can say JPCOA largely failed because they cannot come to an agreement in terms of, especially under Trump's regime, because Trump largely rejected the JPCOA agreement signed by Obama. Why? Because he said that it should also include Iranians' ballistic missile program. And then you can also say that now the nuclear non-proliferation is not only dealt by state actors, it also started dealing with non-state actors involving. So for example, you can say the 2017 they signed what is that prohibition of nuclear weapons agreement. This was the first ever treaty that was actually formulated by what? Not state actors but by non-state actors. And then you can say we have also seen uh, regional level non-proliferation developments. For example, Bangkok Treaty declared Southeast Asia as a nuclear free zone. The Pelindiba Treaty, which has declared Africa as a what you can say nuclear free zone. Pelindiba, Pelendiba, Pelindiba Treaty. Okay, and you can say currently you can say there are some parts of the world which are nuclear free. But then you can also write about current the evolution. We should not only discuss about the ability of state actors. We also have to rise of terrorism has also created the tool of possibility of proliferation happening towards what non-state actors. Or you can say countries like Pakistan have developed newer technologies called as tactical nuclear weapons. So that should be also taken into account in any kind of non-proliferation. And then you conclude your answer by saying that you know that we need to further work towards ensuring not just nuclear free zones but a nuclear free world or something like that. So you can go on writing that how it has been evolving. Okay. But again, the suggestion is that see for this and all you need bit of knowledge to write, specific knowledge, and these are all will be 20 marker, 50 marker session as a choice they'll give it in the exam. When you're choosing your question, you have to be more careful. You understand? Why I'm being more careful? Because here you can think and write and all, but in exam what happens? You have to write in split seconds. So many times you'll be tempted to say that okay I can write, but once you start writing, you feel that you don't have content on it. And in a 20 marker question, if you spoil up your answer, you're losing a huge quantum amount. So I will always suggest that choose questions which you feel you have plenty of content. It might be unorganized, but still you have content. You can organize it. But if you choose a question where you don't have dimensions, you don't have points, there it will bleed you a lot. Understood? So always go for a question. Like you can say that 2B questions if you see, they're all dimensions. You can write out. I'm not telling you cannot write here, but you have to systematically have content. You have to organize it, and the question is also very complex. Discuss the evolution of non-proliferation of nuclear weapons in post-Cold War era. So that's why I told unless you have practiced, you know very well. So be careful. You can't help if it's a 10 marker question. You'll have to write some. But in 10 marker question, it's fine. You're not losing a great chunk. But in a 20 marker question, you're going to lose a great chunk if you have not written well. And in a 10 marker, you can cover up the knowledge deficit also by adding something. But 20 marker will get exposed if you don't have content. Now, same way, take down one more question on this nuclear proliferation. Take down. Critically examine critically examine India's persistent refusal to sign NPT despite being recognized as a de facto nuclear power. This has been asked in 2024 for 15 months. You know, if you look at this question, right, this question you will have to think and write. They're not asking what is NPT. So when you structure your answer, first you write about what is NPT, when was it brought, 1968. Then you have to write about that in 1968 India did not sign it. Okay, so they told it is discriminatory and it creates an hierarchical world order. Just you can write that much. And then you can say as of today, India tested its nuclear weapon in 1998 under Operation it bought its nuclear doctrine in 2003. And of today, India has been recognized by the world, if not officially or not legally, as a responsible nuclear weapon state. Because under NPT, you have only 5 countries which are recognized nuclear weapons. Now the question is asking, in spite of this, why India has persistently refused? So that you can sign NPT now, right? So that's the answer. If you sign, you'll have to give up your nuclear weapons. Secondly, you can say that the current format of NPT does not fit into India's agreement. Even if India has to sign, they have to ask to recognize India as also one of the recognized nuclear weapon state. Means you have to change the agreement. Why? Because it says cutoff date is 1967. And thirdly, you can also say India has not signed it. Why? Because India completely is not in favor of the treaty. Means India is not looking for only to be recognized as a nuclear weapon state. India's position has been that we have to create a nuclear free world, and this NPT does not have the intent of creating a nuclear free world. Neither it brings any kind of clarification on curtailing the what you can say vertical proliferation. It only curbs horizontal proliferation. And secondly, if India also agrees to be part of NPT, the question also rises about including Pakistan into NPT. And given Pakistan's political instability, and Pakistan is the only country where completely nuclear weapon comes under the military control. So hence you can say there is always the trust deficit, there is a security dilemma, and that is why India has not gone for it. Or in other way, India recognizing NPT is, India is also signing NPT, which result in what? Accepting China as a responsible or as a legitimate nuclear weapon state, and this will put India's security concerns. Fourth, you can say domestic pressure will be there. So any kind of government which tries to bring India under and present structure of NPT will also lose its popularity. Why? Because you can say NPT is largely seen within the Indian public also an attempt by the Western countries to ensure that the nuclear weapons remains the under the control of the P5 countries, or you can say the victorious powers in the Second World War. So given all these facts, India feels that NPT is no longer serves the purpose of creating a nuclear world. So India has always stood in favor of creating a new security agreement, which largely speaks about not just prohibiting horizontal proliferation. India also aspires that we have to move towards an agreement or a treaty that will meet the aspiration of a nuclear free world. So understand? So here question is not just writing why India is not saying. They are not asking that. Critically examine India's persistent refusal to sign NPT in spite of being recognized as a de facto nuclear weapon. Okay, got it. And you have to indicate. So where you have to indicate that they persistently refused to sign. So even when India applied for NSG in that regard, India asked India to be exempted from signing NPT. So understood? So successive Indian governments have repeatedly said that we are neither signing or interested in signing non-proliferation treaty. Understood? So it's an applied question. There is no content and all. You have to bring your understanding on the paper. Same way, one more question you take down. Take down this question. Let us see whether you will write. India's nuclear policy. India's nuclear policy is deeply influenced by its cultural beliefs, and pragmatic approach of foreign policy. Discuss pragmatic approach of its foreign policy. Discuss. This has been asked for 20 marks in 2020. So one suggestion before you write the answer is that in these kind of questions, right, it's more important. Don't think that okay, how many scholars shall I write? Shall I write Rakesh Sood? Shall I write Bharat Karnad? That you can all bring. Focus first giving a structure to your answer. Focus on the keywords that has been asked. One keyword is cultural beliefs. The other keyword is a pragmatic approach to foreign policy. Means in a sum, they're both idealism and realism that has been a guiding factor of India's nuclear policy in simple terms. You know what happens in an answer in an exam hall, there might be people who know content, But what happens because of the time factor, etc., they get confused what to write, where to write, etc. They just go on writing whatever is coming into their head. So their thought process is not more organized. What is an organized thought process? Organized thought process, first you have to write about India's nuclear policy. You can say India became a nuclear weapons state, right? Big about historical background. Operation Smiling Buddha, Operation Shakti, the doctrine brought by K. Subramania committee. Right, few aspects of India's nuclear doctrine: no first use, credible minimum deterrence, no use act. Now, once you wrote, now you decode it, saying that how this policy has been largely shaped by its cultural beliefs. Give your points, give your argument. I'm not telling now because you need to write it. You have to think. I can give it, but then what will you think? Then you divide your answer about how you can say it was pragmatic. Pragmatic means what? Practical. So write about from a, don't write now. Morganto said India. Morganto didn't tell India. You're going to mind. Morganto has never written anything about India. Can just bring the realist framework. Yeah, for realist framework, they believe that what you have to go for self-reliance. You have to bring your own security. Power, what you can say, power is the answer for power. So now you write about what was the necessity for India at this point of time. What was India's position at this point of time. Then you conclude your answer by saying that you can see that is what we can say when you look at India's strategic culture. That day we discussed, we have not yet discussed, that is 6 a.m. club. India's strategic culture is strongly influenced by its moral philosophy, and also it is realistic outlook to the world affairs or something. That's the structure you're going to write. So time start now. You have 12 minutes. You understand? The most important part in answer writing is always structuring. If you know how to structure it, your answer will come out well. You have last 10 minutes. Last 8 minutes. Last 6 minutes. Last 5 minutes. Last 4 minutes. Last 3 minutes. Last 1.5 minutes. Last 60 seconds. Last 30 seconds. Last 10 seconds. Time up. So how would you have approached this question? They're telling India's nuclear policy is deeply influenced by its cultural bliss and pragmatic approach. So what is the introduction you have written? What is the introduction you have written? Gagan, what is the introduction? Hmm. 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 The K. Subramania committee presented the India's nuclear doctrine. And then what you wrote? You need to write key features of the doctrine. No first use, credible minimum deterrence, self-imposed moratorium, no attack against non-nuclear weapon states. Then what will you write? So one you can say that India's nuclear policy represents a mixture of both its philosophical roots and its geopolitical realities. So first explain philosophical roots. So what have you written there? Okay, the Hindu philosophy of Vasu Dhaiva Kutumbakam. Okay, how it has shaped India's policy. So largely India's ultimate goal, because you cannot write only about nuclear thing, you have to write India's nuclear policy also, has been what? To establish a nuclear free world, and India has consistently said it will be the first country to give up nuclear weapons if there is an agreement that meet the necessity. Then you can write. You can write. Then I'm telling what is the cultural beliefs. So one you can say the Buddhist philosophy and the Gandhian ideas have also shaped India's nuclear policy. For example, Gandhi largely speaks about self-reliance in that regard. So hence you can say India's development of nuclear weapon is also to be self-reliant on its own security needs. Second, you can say the Buddhist philosophy also has shaped that the principle of ahimsa. So that has been reflected in India's nuclear posture, where India told India's nuclear weapons is not to attack anybody. It is only as a retaliation in case of India's nuclear attack on India at large. So you can say India's nuclear posture reflects defensive realism rather than offensive realism. And you can also say that India has also clarified that we are not using these weapons as a threat to anybody, and that is why India has brought about that no attack against non nuclear weapon states. So this also reflects India's idea that to have friendly relations with neighboring countries. But then you can see India's nuclear policy is an outcome also of its geopolitical realities. Largely you can say Mandala Siddhanta and Kautilya's Chanakya Niti, where you can say one, China developing a nuclear weapon in 1964, and given that India had fought the war in 1962 with China, this put India's security under threat, and that is what compelled India to develop a nuclear weapon. Second, what you can read, pragmatic reason regarding. Hmm. So you can say the disintegration of USSR, and ultimately you can say that loss of a strong ally also led to India to develop self-reliance. And thirdly, you can say China-Pakistan nexus, which is that India always felt that China can use its nuclear weapons to bolster Pakistan's security and use Pakistan as a proxy against India. But you can say India failed now, because tomorrow China can, because who helped Pakistan in getting a nuclear weapon? It's largely China also supported, means Pakistan. So that also pushed India towards what? Nuclear weapon. And third, you can also say that the Western countries, what you can say, use of force against non-nuclear weapon state. So India also felt that it acts as a deterrence in any kind of Western interference in India's internal affairs. And you can also see India's nuclear policy is also pragmatic, in the sense you can say that India has said that it is no first use, and it's what is that? No use against non-nuclear weapons, right? Is a practical reality. Why? Because India understands that most of the neighboring countries are smaller in size, and asymmetry exists between India and neighboring countries, and that is why India believes that good relations with neighboring countries is very essential, and that is why they have also gone for a defensive posture rather than an aggressive posture. Hence, you can say India's. That also, yeah, you can also say one more pragmatic policy is that they have ensured that it comes under tight civilian control, and that has been also very practical. Why? Because India got the nuclear deal from United States of America, whereas Pakistan was not able to get the same deal. So this reflects India's viability of India's nuclear position. And so that is what you can say, that India's nuclear policy has largely been a mixture of both its cultural roots as well as its geopolitical necessity or need. That is what you could have written in your answer. So it is for 20 marks. Now, take down this question, 10 marks, 150 words. 10 marks, 150 words. It's an opinion oriented question, and let us see how you will tackle it. Is India's nuclear doctrine, is India's nuclear doctrine, nuclear doctrine, a viable one, a viable one. So this is for 10 marks, 10 marks, 150 words, 10 marks, 150 words. This was asked in 2023, 2013. So you have 7 minutes to write. What is the meaning of viable? Is it practical or not? You have 7 minutes to write the answer. Last 5 minutes. Last 2 minutes. Last 60 seconds. Last 30 seconds. Last 20 seconds. Time is up. So, if you hear they're asking your opinion, that is India's nuclear doctrine a viable one? Viable means a more practical one. So one, of course, your introduction will be saying that India's nuclear doctrine was presented in 2003 by K. Subramania committee. Then, since it's a 150-word answer, you can't go details. You can say the key aspect of India's nuclear doctrine is NFU, credible minimum deterrence, no use of weapons against non-nuclear weapon states. Then directly come to the third paragraph about you can bring the arguments of uh, maximizers, means who argue that India's nuclear doctrine is not practical. Why it is not practical? You bring arguments of Bharat Karnad or you can say Brahma Chelani, who says that it does not address the issue of development of tactical nuclear weapons by Pakistan and how India will respond to it. Secondly, you can say it also has no clarity regarding what if there's a possibility of a terror group using nuclear weapons against India. Third, you can also say no first use has given more strategic advantage to Pakistan to get away with its, what you can say, proxy war against India without a fear of Indian retaliation in that regard. Thirdly, you can say it does not also address the what you can say, the military asymmetry between India and China, because nuclear weapons are meant to act as a deterrent, but India's NFU will think. And thirdly, even people like Bharat Karnad have questioned whether India has foolproof second strike capability to handle it. But then you can bring the arguments of those who defend, saying that Indian nuclear doctrine is viable one. So, and you can say they say that NFU has ensured that India has retained its image in the worldwide as a responsible nuclear weapon state. This was also seen by America's offering a special deal to India, that is the India-US nuclear agreement. So secondly, you can say India's nuclear doctrine can be also attributed to India's entry into many security groupings, for example, MTCR, PSIR, etc. So that also indicates viability. And thirdly, you can also say India's nuclear doctrine to a certain extent, such as not using nuclear weapons against non-nuclear weapon states. It's a no first use policy, has also ensured that none of the India's neighboring countries, barring Pakistan, have gone to seek the nuclear umbrella either from China or either from some external power. And fourthly, you can also say that K. Subramanya also defended India's NFU, saying that it is not about how many weapons you have, it's more about the perception that you build your enemy. So hence you can say, however, in spite India's nuclear doctrine does needs to evolve with changing technological era, with changing geopolitical realities. You can write points for it. See, that's what I mean. If you take this fellow's answer, Dishant, Nishant, you answer, you see how many points he's writing in a 10 marker question. Why? Because he's writing, he'll be very brief in introduction. Some people, why they don't have points, they'll write lengthy about what is nuclear doctrine. You understand? That's what if you see some toppers answer script, right? They write lot of points in their, that question. And even if you overshoot by 10 words or 15 words, some people's handwriting will be small. UPSC is not going to actually start counting every word. The only thing is that you have to be able to write fast within the given time limit. So that's why I told you look at some toppers answer script and you look at how many points they're bringing in their answer. They would have brought a lot of points. You understand why? Because you have to, again, the skill of writing that briefly. The point is that no, what point at all you have to write that way only briefly. But if you start writing and you start expanding, so when you say it has what you can say enabled Pakistan to continue in its what is that um, proxy war against India, then you don't need to explain Al Qaeda. Simple. It has enabled Pakistan to use proxy war against India without the fear of an Indian retaliation. Right. That is one point. Second one, possibility of rise of non-state actors and use of nuclear weapons. Question mark. What is India's response? So that's why I told you have to learn to how to write very briefly, especially in 10 marker question. 20 marker question, you have the space for expanding that sentence. But in a 10 marker question, you have to bring a lot of perspective. You have to bring a lot of points. Got it? And especially in a question like this, when they're telling it is a viable one or not a viable one. So these are the questions that has been asked on nuclear policy, India's nuclear position, what we can. So you need to think on these lines that what can be done or what you can write. Also, that's what here also prepare introductions, prepare conclusions. Scholars again don't need to force yourself. You have this Bharat Karnad, Brahma Chelani, K. Subramanya, 2 or 3 names, it's fine in this regard. So these are the things that you have to keep in your mind, especially answering these type of questions. India's, because nuclear policy will come, because every year they've asked one question on India's nuclear policy. You understood? Every year there is one question they've asked on India non-aligned movement. Every year they've asked one question on what you can say, these institutions making in foreign, either parliament, either NSA, or either states. Some of you just have to think what else they can ask. They might ask the role of diaspora in Indian foreign policy. You understand? And here and all, theory means what? You can just link something. Like when you're writing out diaspora, you'll write out Joseph Nice soft power. That's it. Right? You won't go on explaining liberal institution. No, no. Just write one small theory, then you just try to bring dimensions. And what role dimensions diaspora play? They can act as a pressure group, remittance, transfer of technology, and fourth one you can also say they also promote Indian culture abroad in that regard. Okay, then you have to give examples of how diaspora can be mobilized. What has been India's policy regarding diaspora? So if you have solved questions in those areas, solved questions, you not sit and study. Okay, because you don't have so much time also now to sit and study and all. Largely you have to work with question and answer format about you trying to uh, put it in place. Got it? So that's why if you see that one advantage of if you have written means or you write means, you get to know that there is not so much of preparation that is required. Okay, those who have never written means, right, they'll be always in this perpetual dilemma saying that we need to prepare so much, never ending goal. But those who have written means will know it. It's so much of content. But if you have written and you are aware of it, you're written and you're still ignorant, then it can be a vicious circle. Every year you go right, every year you come back. 1 year you will tell sir time salilla. In one more year you will tell nan time sari irliಲ್ಲ. ಯಾರಂಗೇನು ಅಂಡ್ 1 year you will tell ನಂಗೆ ಟೈಮ್ ಸಾಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ನೇನೋ ನನ್ನ ಟೈಮೇ ಸರಿ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸರಿ ನಂಗೆ ಟೈಮೇ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. So the question is about you, that if you are so that's why you should have those examination skills. And this in this exam I have not seen people who are very smart, very knowledgeable, etc. They have not gone on to clear UPSC exams. Knowledge is required to a certain extent, but beyond knowledge you need to develop examination skills. For example, prelims there is certain set of skills, mains there is certain set of skills, interview there is certain set of skills. The problem with I don't know our students, why they don't, they're not so exam oriented. One is ignorance. Okay, I'm not telling ignorance about the subject, they're ignorant about the exam itself. Okay, it's like Plato's what you can say, this allegory of caves. They're sitting in a cave that is in Chandra layout, is a cave which is very far away from Mussoorie. There's only one source of light that is coming, and they're making their own assumptions saying that okay, what we are seeing, that is the reality. Unless they break the chains, they come out of the cave and then they look at the outside world and then they understand that whatever I saw all this time was nothing but a reflection of, it's just a shadow of the reality. They won't come out of the reality. And that's why I told some people will like the cave so much. Because right in that, this thing will be coming nowadays, that shapes will be coming out. Oh, Mussoorie is very close by. But once they come out of that cave, they realize that we are still in Kengeri only. Mussoorie is very long, far away. You're getting your mind. Why that happens is that I'm not speaking about their intelligence. I'm speaking about their ignorance. Plain ignorant. You see in our libraries. From 2-3 years, they'll be studying. No direction, no conviction. What they're studying, they only don't. I've seen people from 4 to 5 years, they'll be shifting from one building to other building, moving. They would have never cleared one prelims also. You ask them, ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಸೇಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸರ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಸಾಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಟೈಮ್ ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ಟೈಮ್ ಸರಿ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಥರ್ಡ್ ಟೈಮ್ ನಂಗೆ ಟೈಮೇ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಇವಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸು ಬರೀತೀವಿ. You get the point, reasons are ready. But they'll never speak about, okay, why did they fail? Okay, they never sit and think about, okay, why some people are succeeding, why we are lagging behind. Understood? For them, it is more like what you can say. If you ask me, like, it is always easier to teach in Bangalore than it is always easier to teach in Delhi. I'll tell you why. The reason in Delhi is that their students are very smart. They will question you. Okay, they are not ready to listen to stories and all. Even here in Delhi exam, what I told this 20 minutes, right? They'll tell, sir, mains exam is going on. What are you telling? Come back to the point. We'll do. Our students, you tell them anything, that only they believe is the, what you can say, the perception of truth. And neither they have any kind of empirical basis to say that, okay, how much of them are succeeding. There is an empirical way of taking, okay, how many of, let us say, how many of OGP students last year have actually cleared films? You won't find more than 10 to 15, not more than that. Out of 1,000 people, you will hardly have 10 to 15 people. The reason why is that simple. What they do apart from sitting in class and taking down notes, nothing else they're doing to develop those skills. And that's why I told you, if you write means, you'll get to know that this exam is beyond that. This exam is beyond classrooms. This exam is all about your analytical skill, being prepared with introduction, conclusion. For some topics, notes is only not required. It's not required. Simple as a nuclear doctrine and all, you don't need to sit and join down notes. Basic notes is what is nuclear doctrine, when was it presented, rest is on P by Qs. If you keep doing value addition, that is more than enough. But you can see in some people, even after 3-4 years, they'll tell, sir, ನಾನು ನೋಟ್ಸೇ ರೆಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಇನ್ನ ನಾನು ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ನಾವು ಏನು ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಮಾಡಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೆಂಗಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ನಮಗೆ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ನು ನೋಟ್ಸೇ ಎತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸಕ್ಕತ್ತ ಮಾಡೋನೆ, ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಹೈಯರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಫ್ಯಾಕಲ್ಟಿ ಅಂತೂ ಆಗ ಬಿಡಲ್ಲ. Because studying political science, knowing Kautilya, you give an inch to somebody, they take you read political science not only for subject. Like there was one student, I think 2 years back, he came saying that he came randomly, all his attempts were over, and he came and he met me and he told, sir, nowadays you have become very famous, sir. I told, like, Kautilya has always taught me nobody is going to praise anybody without any kind of benefit. That much the common sense God has given me. I told, okay, nice. Then how do you manage so many students in political science? Because test series is growing. I told him, finding it difficult. Sir, what you do now? I want to help you, sir. You give me a chance, because you can't address every student who is busy. I will speak to them. I will clear their doubts. Even I have written, 2 mains. I told, oh, that's wonderful offer you are giving. I'll consider it. But currently, I don't have any room. Maybe I'll get back to you when it is there. Even he knows that I'm not going to get back. Why are you not going to make simple? You don't create your own competitor within you. Political science will teach you that practicality also in exam. And that's why I said that this is an exam, it's not only about who has read more and all. This is an exam where you need that skill. You should be very shrewd in your preparation. You have to know how questions will come. And that is what is the difference I find when you look at a bit of North Indian students. They have that flair. No, they have that flair. When you look at their answers, when you look at their preparation methods, they are exam aligned. They are, like, it's not newcomers. You can say very, very newcomers. There is one girl, she's writing a year-long test series, not for this year. She's just graduated now. I'll show you her answer tomorrow. Just tomorrow I'll get it. You can't believe that she's a person who has read only for 6 months. Brilliant articulation skill. I've never seen an articulation skill that way. Again, if you check her roots in that regard, JNU. She comes from JNU. She has that background. And that is why she's picked up that very instinct. You see her writing, how she'll express that answer, same points, whatever points you have. But the way she puts forward her arguments, her points, so organic, and her handwriting. And it's not that she's taking more time. She's maximum I think she's taking 5-10 minutes extra because she's a newcomer. She's writing now. And that's why I told that's a skill. And that's why I asked her, like, how did you prepare? That's it. I'm doing from graduation days. I'm looking into mains question papers. I'm writing answers from before. Now I just want to test myself by taking a year-long test series to see whether my answers are up to the mark. It's not that we have shaped her writing. She's already good. And that's why I keep saying, for mains, you need that skill. Okay, nobody can teach you that skill. That will only come with practice. Right, even a test series, maximum what you will do in a test series, take a paper, write what you know. But I don't think so. Test series is contributing anywhere to improvement of your quality of your answers. Because the gap between test series is writing, but he is only not getting that direction of writing. You can tell him, okay, you have to write like this. They will pick it up and pass. But let us think a person who is weak in terms of building dimensions, their dimensions are not built. I don't think so. They will improve within a test series in span of 3 to 4 weeks. Okay, that is, you need year-long thing. Year-long thing means you have to write throughout the year, work on every suggestion. Got it? And that's what I told. Your writing skill is pretty good. You have knowledge. All you need to do is that just change your approach about how questions are being asked and how you structure it. And that's why I told there are different types of questions. You are in, and don't treat all questions as same. So yesterday also one fellow had written in his test. I think he's already written, means he has given interview, but he has got less in political science. So what was his writing? What I observed yesterday when I went through his paper, for everything in conclusion, he's writing contemporary. It's not wrong everything. I told him, but sometimes it's not making sense. You are getting mind. So the question was something like that. We have solved that question. Whether multipolar world is more stable or a bipolar world is more stable, comment. He's written the theory well. He has written, who said that bipolar world is stable? Kenneth Waltz, and he has given argument that why it is more stable. Then he has countered his argument by bringing the argument of classical liberals, saying that multipolarity, multiple powers are there, balance of power will work, etc. Then he has also brought the argument that, however, you have Charles Kindleberg and Robert Gilpin, who had argued hegemonic stability theory. When there is a single hegemon that is more stable, he has given the example of the conclusion. What he has written is that he has told today we are moving towards multipolarities, and some multipolarity is written. It's not making sense to the arguments what he has brought in. So I don't know, why did you write like this? So I don't know. I have a friend, he has scored 146. He told me in every conclusion I brought contemporary. Now telling he brought contemporary and writing contemporary might be different. That fellow might have the skill to mold that same content and match it to the question. This fellow does not have that skill. So how his conclusion is looking like, right? All the structuring is good. Conclusion randomly is telling something, multipolar world is coming. So what you could have written as a conclusion for that question, logically, you could have told, irrespective of whether it is bipolarity, unipolarity and multipolarity, because all this polarity power thesis is brought by structuralists. Okay, but you can bring the argument of neoclassical realists, who also says that individuals can also shape structures. So stability of a particular system not only depends upon the structure, it also depends upon the actors who are part of that system. Logic is that a unipolar world was stable under America because an America who believed in a liberal world order. A unipolar world under Trump might not be stable. Why? Because he does not profess liberal values. A unipolar world under China might not be the same stable world what you see. Why? Because China does not believe in liberal values. So understood? Your conclusion need not be always same what others are writing. Your toppers would have told their approach. Yeah, I linked some contemporary, but it is their skill. They would have ensured that they've linked in such a way that it is matching to the demand. Okay, but when you try to do it very inorganically, right? Like topper would have told, he would have told in some question I brought Indian constitution, but again it depends upon how you linked the Indian constitution there. Now what an average person will do? Okay, topper, he told na link Indian constitution. Now the question will be need plate of philosopher king. You will write Indian constitution does not envisage any person, it breaks on rule of law. Not required. So please work out on those aspects for the remaining questions. So tomorrow we'll start with the other parts, that is democracy, human rights, gender justice, and we also club it with certain part B syllabus, means institutions of Indian foreign policy. Understood? We are going to combine both. And maybe on, I think Thursday, Friday, we'll completely go into part B. The last class what we'll have maybe on Saturday or anything, that will be related to comparative politics, and that topics are there now. Comparative politics, the changing nature of states in developed world and developing countries. That will be the last session what we'll do. Hmm. See, for example, if you are going to write political economy from comparative sense, you are going to compare the political economy of different societies. Like for example, communism versus socialism, right? Or you can say how political economy in India works compared to political economy in the West, right? Or tomorrow you are going to compare the political culture. So political culture in India is very different from political culture of the West. So what is political culture here? Here the values culture are not also shaped by informal factors such as caste, religion, etc. So you have to be bit organic here when you write with examples what you give. So for example, when you compare and say political culture, people in India cast their vote, they don't just cast their vote. This kind of culture is not available in. There are theory, you have a theory called as parochial culture, civic culture. But I'm telling, when you write an answer, when they're asking compare and write, so they might ask this question randomly. They might ask compare and contrast the political culture of the West and political culture in India. Now you can't just write about Sydney Verba, you can just introduce, but now you have to bring concrete arguments. Na? So there you can say those societies have been all secularized, here it has been not secularized. There you can say in political culture, largely you can say class is a basis of how people's political behavior is shaped. But here you can say there are multiple elements that shape people's political culture. There you can say political culture is bit modernized, means modern political values are there. But if you look at India and third world countries, largely you can say like what Riggs told, these are prismatic societies. So widen your logic and you bring political. For example, you can say when you look at British political culture, they don't have the problem of defections. But when you look at Indian political culture, there's a huge problem of defections. Political culture can also include coalition culture. But then you can say because of globalization, because of new ideas entering, now you can also say even here modern political culture are developing. So here you are mixing your information, what you read in PSR paper 1 part B, mixing it with PSR paper 1 part 2A, then you are writing an answer. But if you work in silos, 2 are just writing a civic culture, parochial culture, then they won't give you marks because you are not. You are understanding where you can write when in a traditional way. There is comment on political economy, simple standard format. What is political economy? Kautilya or somebody. Then you write there is liberal political economy, there is Marxist political economy. Hmm. Hmm. Paper 2 is only second paper. ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. They don't ask which paper they're asking. I told that is paper 2 only now. Paper 2 only now, political economics. See, I'll tell you, our confusion is what now. She tell like, sorry, what if they ask systems approach in paper 1? I will write about David Easton. Sir, what if they asked about systems approach in paper 2? So I can write both David Easton, Morton Kaplan. So I'll write about systems approach. They're not asking Morton Kaplan systems approach. I can write about David Easton. I can write about Kaplan. I can write about Emmanuel Wallerstein. Everybody have used systems approach. Understood? But when I write paper 1, I will just limit to writing David Easton and what is the systems analysis. In second paper, it depends on what exactly they are against. If you see some question, they are write about Morton Kaplan's systems analysis. Sometimes they'll just ask comment on systems. This is when confusion starts. Yen barili anta. No, you can't narrow your answer only to Morton Kaplan. You have to write about what is systems analysis. It is an outcome of behavioral revolution in political science that also extended to international relations. Using this approach, different people have presented different ideas. Write about Kaplan, write about Wallerstein, and then see all system approach have same limitations in that regard. Write about their limitations. Got it? So that's what political economy paper 2 nahi aata. No. Understood. So that's the thing. No, it's fine. See, there is no hard, fast rule that you have to write in a particular way. The only examples can vary. Understood? Political sociology, they might ask. Yeah, no, when you're writing, write from a point of view of comparative politics. Okay. So let us think they ask, by chance, let us think they ask in paper 1 only, write about political sociology. Now you write, right, traditional approaches were largely lacking Disney. Now society started becoming very important. Why? Because now they understood society also shapes factors. So who do you think would have, as used in their theory, this Karl Marx is an example of political sociology. You can also write about what you can say, this Indian scholars who are there, Christopher Jefferlot, Atul Kohli. Simple, na? You write the, make sure you address the demand. Yeah, conclusion will be always what who told that bring back this state? Yoda, Gopal, who said that the subject is too much going on in society, but you have to, state should always be the central focus of study. Okay, what are the limitations of political sociology? You need costlier data collection methods. It's a very costly method to do it. Second one, variables randomly vary. You don't have stable variables here. So see, for everything what I had done while preparation, for every part I had prepared in question answer format. So if there is any question on political sociology, I have an introduction also. The introduction is that uh, it is popularly said that there is no politics without society, and there is no society where there is no politics. That was my introduction. So for every approach, I had built an introduction. Body I knew, okay, this I will write. For everything is fixed. Significance of that approach, limitation of that approach, then always end on positive. Whether you use AI, whether you use net, that is the thing. Because I don't find in standard notes it is given in a clear-cut way. So you need to use AI. Collect what are the points of significance of political sociological approach. Collect points are what are the limitations of political sociological approach. I don't know, dialogues, etc. Who are the proponents? Not it. Same thing, political economy. There was psychological approach. Some even you don't know, write something. It will be focused on human psychology. You have different, decision making analysis is based on human psychology. Behavioralism is based on human psychology. I'm not telling you will get out of 10 7. It's okay, get a 4. Getting 0 is any day better than getting 4 if you connect and write. Got it? You can tell, psychology plays a huge role. For example, you can say decision making analysis in foreign policies. You have to compare the psychology of the leaders. That also plays a very key role. Psychological approach, even you can say Hannah Arendt has used, saying that when people lose critical thinking, how human psychology shapes political outcomes. Voting behavior is based on human psychology. Got it? So that's why I told largely work with previous year questions. So tomorrow I told now we'll complete the remaining part of part A, and we'll also start with part B, that is determinants, changes, and this thing in Indian foreign policy. So the starting part, and day after tomorrow we'll go into bilateral relation. Bilateral relation, not much is there, but we have to focus on recent developments. So I'll give you certain probable questions. So in this part, we'll not write more of PYQs. PYQs we'll look into. We'll write more of probable questions that can come in the exam and brainstorm. Okay, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Nepal. What points you can write? Introduction, what you can write? Conclusion, what you can write? Maps, where you can add. We have to think here only, so that at least a structure is ready. So that you just go implement into the exam if the same theme question comes. And keep an eye on Telegram channel. We are posting every day, what you can say, important issues for exam. You don't need to read the entirety, just value add.